on the phone line live from London. Aisha?
Okay, time now as promised for Street View. Rajnish Kumar, Executive VP at Fullerton Securities and Wealth Advisors joins in. Rajnish, hi, afternoon. Your first reactions to the sub 7% GDP number that we've seen, and does it seem like for the next few quarters to come we are going to see an average 7% figure?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. The sub 7% number doesn't surprise anyone, because I think most of us had already built this into our expectations. Also, if you look at the quarterly results that we have seen for the last quarter, which came out, we saw for the first time, probably after 2008, profitability for Nifty companies actually shrinking compared to the same quarter last year. And this trend seems to be continuing, because the input costs have been high for most of the companies, the interest rates have been high, so the interest costs have been high, and looks like there will be certainly be margin compression for most of the frontline companies going forward as well. So sub 7% GDP growth is something which the market has already built into its expectations. What probably will look out for is what happens in the subsequent quarter in terms of corporate results. Are we going to see further dampening of numbers and further downward pressure? And that is something which can then pull the market further down. But what this definitely is doing is that it will limit the upside for the market from the current levels for sure.
Rajnish, when we last had you on this show, you were pretty bearish on the back of news coming out of Europe. Since then, we've seen a massive correction here in India as well. At these levels, would you continue to maintain a bearish stance?
I think market has now reached a level where I would say it's, given the current flow of information, it seems fairly priced is what I would say. Unless there is something which happens, something drastic that happens, I don't see market going down substantially from these levels. Now, what could be those potential triggers which can pull the market down further? One, of course, could be this some bit of comfort that one is drawing from what is happening in Europe in terms of the summit which is going to happen later this week, and some bit of understanding between France and Germany in terms of how to take it from here. All this is giving some positive comfort to the markets. If something was to go wrong in terms of how the discussions in Europe is happening, that can have a negative drag on the market. Other could be a very high inflation number. I mean, that's something which I am really worried about at this point in time. If inflation numbers continue to look high for India, then we could actually see a sharper correction in the market, because then that would mean that we are in for low growth, high inflation kind of a phase with very little remedial action in government's hands, in RBI's hands rather. So that could be a more difficult situation. But if, as of now, the market, I don't think is going to see a very sharp dip is what my reading is currently.
So Rajnish, given the macro as well as micro data points right now that we're currently working with, both domestically as well as globally, what's the downside that you would attach to the equity markets? Could we stare at 10% lower levels on the index?
From these levels, going down 10% can happen, but that can happen only under very dire situations where something really gives in Europe. Otherwise, I don't see it falling down so sharply. So something unforeseen happening in Europe can push us down to those levels. That's what my reading is as of now. What can probably propel us upwards from here, and which is what probably to my mind one of the few things which can still push the market up significantly, could be some strong policy reforms from the government. But I am not very sure if that's going to come in a hurry.
Okay, Rajnish, good to have you on the show as always. Thanks for taking time out right now.
Okay, we need to slip into a short break here in Markets at Lunch. But when we come back to Focus to Commodities, we'll be joined by Commodities and Currencies Editor Manisha Gupta with an update. And we'll also get to trading strategies from Dharmesh Bhatia of Kotak Commodities.
And as as always, we will also have Ashwini Gujral come in and talk about the technicals of the market as well as give us his midday trading ideas.